Hejsan! Idag är det provlektion. Today is our test day, which means that today's lesson is dedicated to exercises only, which is precisely the reason why this lesson, I would say, is even easier than our usual lessons. So why exactly? Because we are going to go through the material. We are going to do exercises similar to those that we have already done, right? So definitely not something that we should be worried about. Before we get to the exercises, there is, however, one thing that I would like you to ask to do. That is, follow your progress. Every single exercise is evaluated in terms of points. That is, exercise 1 is worth 10 points, exercise 2 is worth 8 points, and so on and so forth. So I would like you to be honest with yourselves. If you made a mistake, write 9 out of 10. If you made 2 mistakes, write 8 out of 10, and so on and so forth. This is the only way how I will be able to tell you something about your final result at the end of this lesson. But first things first, the exercises, right? So let's get to the very essence of this lesson, right? The exercises. Test yourself, or testa dig själv, right? So first of all, we have 2 exercises, A och B. Exercise A is quite simplistic. What we have to do is to fill in the gaps with the correct question word. There are only 3 question words that we have to choose. That is var, varifrån, and hur, right? Let's take a look at the example. Imagine that this is a blank space. So, bor Elin. Var bor Elin, right? Where does Ellen live? This is the thing that you have to do with the rest of the questions, right? 5 questions and correct question words. Now, let's jump to exercise B, right? What we have to do here, we have 3 answers, right? And our task is to provide questions based on these answers, right? So, for example, Ellen har barn. Ellen has kids. Does Ellen have kids? Har Elin barn? I would like to accentuate that this is ja och nej frågor. This is yes or no questions, which means that we begin these questions with the verb itself, because we don't have any question words, right? Right, so 2 exercises, A och B, and 40 seconds for you to do them. Lycka till! And that is it. Let's check the facit, or answer key, where you will also be able to see how many points you have accumulated, right? So the points are here, poäng, right? 8 points. But first, the correct answers. So exercise A. Vad heter du? What is your name? Kommer han? Varifrån kommer han? Where does he come from? Talar de för språk? Vad talar de för språk? What languages do they speak? Stavar du ditt efternamn? Now, this might have been a tricky one, right? A question that we had quite a long time ago, but the correct question word is hur. Hur stavar du ditt efternamn? How do you spell your surname? And finally, har du för yrke? Vad har du för yrke? What is your profession, or what is your job, right? Then exercise B, ja och nej frågor, yes or no questions. The answer to the first question is han är gift. We begin with the verb itself. So, är han gift? Is he married? Är han gift? Then, de pratar norska. They speak Norwegian. Do they speak Norwegian? Pratar de norska? And the last one, Max är advokat. Max är advokat. Max is a lawyer. Is Max a lawyer? Är Max advokat? These are the correct answers, and 8 points for these two exercises. Let's move on. Right, and next we have another exercise, sortera orden. So our task is to put the words into correct order. For instance, jobbar hon barn inte med? Now, this is a clear indication that we have to generate a negative sentence. Why? Because we have a negation here, inte, right? So we begin with the subject, which is she in this case. Hon jobbar inte, and we are left with two words, med and barn. So if we are familiar with the translation of the preposition med, which means with, we put this word first and then barn at the end. And finally, hon jobbar inte med barn. This is precisely what you have to do with these 5 statements here, right? You have to put the words into correct order to make logical sentences. 40 seconds again. Lycka till again. The time is up, so let's take a look at the answers. Okay, so number 1. Studerar han till läkare? Han studerar till läkare. He is studying in order to become a doctor. Emil dansar danska, svenska och inte talar. So, Emil talar inte danska och norska. Emil does not speak Danish and Norwegian, right? We begin with the subject, Emil, the verb, we have a negation that follows the verb, and then what is left. Inte kommer han Tyskland från. Han kommer inte från Tyskland. He does not come from Germany. 2 söner Mirja har. Mirja har 2 söner. I Sverige, Hans jobbar. And finally, Hans jobbar i Sverige. Hans works in Sweden, right? And we have 10 points for the task. Right, this one was quite, it might have been easy and difficult at the same time, right? Quite time consuming, I believe, but a very good exercise to revise the word order. Moving on to next part of our exercises, right? One more exercise with pronouns this time. The pronouns are indicated for you here in the yellow box. However, they are not in the correct order, not the one that we are typically used to see. That is I, you, she, he, and so on and so forth, right? So your task is to fill in the gaps with the correct pronoun. Pretty simple. Nothing too complicated. Do not forget to draw your attention at the context, at the names, right? And any other clues that might be helpful. Your 40 seconds start now. Okay, again the answer key time, right? Aha. Adam heter han, because the name Adam is a male name. Then Anna kommer från Norge. Anna is a she. Hon pratar norska och svenska. Anna comes from Norway. She speaks Norwegian and Swedish. Tobias och Elisa är gifta. Tobias och Elisa. This is our subject, a subject in plural. That's why de. That's why we must have chosen de. De bor i Frankrike nu. So Tobias and Elisa are married. They live in France right now. Vad talar du för språk? Right? The pronoun was indicated for you in the brackets. Du. Har ni barn? Do you have kids? Meaning that we are addressing a couple of people. Maybe just a couple, maybe 5 people. Nobody knows, right? But this is you in plural, and the correct pronoun is ni. Har ni barn? And question number 6. Vad har de för yrke? What are their professions? Right? Vad har de för yrke? One more time, I'd like to accentuate that the spelling is quite simplistic, only 2 letters, D plus E, when the pronunciation is a little bit more complicated, dom. And 6 points, which means that every single case has been evaluated by 1 point. Next, what do we have next? Right. Here we have a short presentation text about a girl called Claudia, right? So a very short text really, and your task is to provide answers for the questions below. Vad heter hon? Är hon gift? Har hon barn? Var bor hon? And vad har hon för yrke? And only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences, right? 5 sentences and 5 questions. Lycka till. One more time. So, the first question. Vad heter hon? What is her name? Claudia heter hon, right? We could have started the sentence with fronting, that is positioning the object at the front of the sentence. Claudia heter hon. Or we might as well stick to the usual word order and begin the sentence or the answer with the pronoun. Hon heter Claudia. Är hon gift? Is she married? Nej, hon är skild. No, she's not married, right? She is divorced. Jag är skild. So hon är skild. Because we are talking about another person, we are using another perspective, so to speak. Har hon barn? Ja, hon har 3 barn. Why? Because we have the answer here. Jag är skild och har 3 barn. So yes, she has 3 kids. Var bor hon? Where does she live? Hon bor i Polen. Why? Because she says vi bor i Polen, meaning she and her kids, right? And finally, vad har hon för yrke? What is her job? Hon är lärare. Why? Because the last sentence clearly indicates jag är lärare här. I work as a teacher here, right? Or I am teacher here. That is it. 10 points for this task, right? Let's move further. Right, an interesting one here. We have to be teachers. You have to be teachers yourselves. Why? Because what we are going to do here is correct mistakes, right? For example, Cecilia studerar till ekonomi. Till ekonomi, there's something wrong with this part. Why? Because we have preposition till that is used to indicate direction, or when we are talking about our goals, so to speak. And then economy is the subject, economics, right? So the correct answer is either Cecilia studerar ekonomi or Cecilia studerar till ekonom. If we want to stick to this word economy, that is, leave the subject, economics, we delete the preposition, right? Because we're saying that we are studying something. And Cecilia is studying economics. While if we take a look at the second correct possible answer, Cecilia studerar till ekonom. We have the name of the profession, right? Ekonom. Therefore, the preposition is also necessary because it's like we are indicated direction, what we are studying for, what is our goal. Cecilia is studying in order to become an economist, right? And then you have 5 cases here, and so your task is to be a teacher and to correct the mistakes. So you have 40 seconds for this daunting task, and you may begin. And the answer key. Unfortunately, I do not have the opportunity to ask you questions, but I would love to ask you this one. So, did you like being teachers or not? Let's take a look at how you corrected these mistakes. So, the first one. Jag inte arbetar I Sverige. I hope you remember this rule, right? This is a clear violation of this rule. The correct answer is jag arbetar and then inte I Sverige. I do not work in Sweden. Then number 2. Jag är 3 döttrar. I am 3 daughters. Does not make sense. Wrong verb. That's why we correct and replace the verb är with har. Han har 3 daughters. He has 3 daughters. Number 3. Vi pluggar Tyskland. We are studying Germany. We can't study a country, right? We study some kind of a subject. Vi pluggar tyska. We are studying German, the language. Or another possible answer is maybe you wanted to say where we are studying. That is, mention the name of the country, right? Mention the country. Vi pluggar I Tyskland. We are studying in Germany. Number 4. Hon heter Ulf. Now, Ulf, that's a man's name, right? So therefore, her name is Ulf. Does not make sense. We have to replace hon with the pronoun han. Han heter Ulf. And number 5. Du kommer från Island. Now, this is a statement, a clear order of a statement, but we simply have a question mark. That is a mistake. It's a yes or no question, and that's why we have to begin this question with the verb itself. Kommer du från Island? Do you come from Iceland, right? And 5 points for this task. Let's continue then. The cherry on top for today's lesson is additional exercise or extra övning. What is it then? Hur stavar du ditt efternamn? How do you spell your surname? Om du kan får du extra 5 poäng. If you do this, you will receive 5 extra points. Remember to follow your result, your progress? I suggest that you stop this video for a quick moment and try to spell your name or, okay, maybe surname, right? Name or surname. Let's say that you can choose. Right? And as for the final result, the places, the first place, the second place, or the third place. So what are the points? You belong to the first place if your result is something between 34 points or 44 points. Poäng, right? That is an excellent result. That means that you are a real plugghäst or a study bug. Now, plugghäst is also an interesting case here. Why? Because we see roots of 2 different words. That is pluggar, studying really hard, right? Putting a lot of effort. And then en häst. En häst in Swedish is a horse, right? So studying horse, meaning that you just love to study and you do this a lot and you enjoy this a lot, right? So congrats if you belong to the first place, if you take the first place. What about another result? Right. If you received 20 and somewhere between 20 and 33 points, that's also a very good result. Not bad. My recommendation would be maybe to take a look at your mistakes and to find out what are your weaknesses. And you may also have received points that are between 0 and 20 points, right? So, okay, maybe today is not the best day on earth for you, maybe not your day. Maybe next time you will do better, but this is definitely not an indication for you to give up on Swedish. Definitely not. Just go through the material one more time, maybe do the exercises that we have already done, and that is it. There is never going to be enough of revision. At the end of the day, what really matters is your desire to study, is your will to study, and the fact that you are striving for the better. That's what I want to congratulate you with. So, in other words, grattis! Du har klarat det första kapitlet. You have completed the first unit, right? That's a lot. That means progress and that we are moving further, right? So that is it. The fact that we have completed the first module means that we are left with 4 modules more. And yes, we're going to have a couple of very interesting and informative and, I hope, enjoyable lessons. So see you on our unit number 2. Goodbye. Hej då!